Welcome back to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Zerg versus Terran, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on a map called Talisman. Now this map I remember from the Team Liquid map contest maybe a half year or so ago. I haven't seen any pro games played on it ever since, so I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down here in this game number 1 from the Korean StarCraft League. Because first off, in the top right hand corner, playing with the red Zerg drones, we're looking at none other than Rogue's main hatchery. And his opponent with the blue Terran pieces, we have none other than ByuN. Talisman is a funky map. Yeah. So I remember seeing this. So there is currently an ongoing Team Liquid map contest. Look at this. Look at this. There's currently an ongoing Team Liquid map contest. This is from the previous TLMC. Meaning that this is a map that never made it to the map pool. Now, with the KSL, with the Korean StarCraft League, they've been swapping out some of the less popular maps, generally the very big ones, the very old ones, like for example King's Cove, for example Abyssal Reef, for example Neon Violet Square. They've been taking those out, and they've been allowing the players to, well, compete on maps like this instead. Now this map is a funky one, because first off, like I said, you have that weird little jiggly path that only a worker fits through, and then there are some skinny mineral fields right behind your natural expansion over here, although maybe this is a natural expansion instead. There's really no way to know, but you can mine those out and create a big opening into your own main base. So yes, this is an easy expansion to take right now for Rogue, but also it's going to make, well, a gigantic opening straight into the main base. And I'm not exactly sure if that's favorable, but it is certainly interesting to check out. Now, I can also imagine, by the way, that for both players, this is not the first time that they're playing on this map, but it is likely one of the first times, because it is not considered to be an official tournament map. But well, as somebody who doesn't necessarily love those super large old school maps, it is nice to see tournaments themselves experiment with this sort of thing a little bit, just to get, well, some more information. Now, ByuN has decided to go for the expansion over here on the low ground, rather than the one right over here. And he will be sending a Reaper across, assuming that the opponent took their natural expansion too. There's a bunch of rocks over here that are going to block the Reaper from getting back around. Although I guess the fastest way is actually just to go into the main base, put the Reaper right over there, and maybe even harass this down. There's about 100 minerals or so in these mineral fields, so it's not just a couple of trips here for a worker. I wonder if this is even optimal. Do you even really want to take that part of the map as your very first base? It might not be the norm, but it is fun to see. So there's a rich Vespian gas geyser, it seems, right over here too, and then these rocks. So these rocks do all share HP, meaning that if one of them goes down, the whole stack will fall. Regular expansions over here too. We have this weird, like, forward expansion with a few, like 3 of these golden mineral fields and then 3 blue ones. So this is another easy one to acquire, but all of these expansions are, they look pretty normal if you, like, don't watch a ton of StarCraft. But for a StarCraft player, this is way off the beaten path. But this is also just weird enough to the point where I think a lot of pro gamers are more than willing to go and give it a try. StarCraft 2 is a difficult game in the first place, right? So if you're adding a lot more difficult map objective to things as well, I mean, it'd be fun to watch for me, for you, but for a pro gamer, it might not be necessarily what they favor. This, I think, is sufficiently weird to the point that pro gamers are more than willing to give it a shot as well. And it has happened, by the way, in the past as well, that even though it's from like an older Team Liquid map contest or an older map tournament in general, that the maps that end up on the ladder are still from the previous versions. So even though we currently have a new one, and then, you know, you would imagine that the upcoming ladder map pool that we'll probably have at some point in the next three months or so, I don't know. Not sure if anybody at Blizzard is still aware of StarCraft, but anyways, assuming we get a new map pool at some point in the future, you'd imagine it's going to be from the most recent map tournaments, and usually that is the case. But it's not unheard of that something like this could actually make it in there. So let's see. Benchy opener here for ByuN. He does now have that 3rd command center done as well. And we're going to continue on the harassment right now. I'm not actually sure if this is ideal. Like, the Hellion harassment here is actually quite tricky to pull off. Yeah, maybe... You can't really go to this expansion very easily, but unless the rocks are down, I can imagine that maybe you can run up towards this high ground. This looks like a relatively tricky base to defend, But I guess the Zerglings can defend as well by running around that way. The whole dynamic of this map is funky, and I like it. Also, depending on what base you take in your very first expansions, it changes up the entire future expansion layout too. Because I can imagine we'll probably see... Yeah, so we have this base over here in the top left right now for Rogue. But if he would have expanded in this direction, and then maybe this is his third, you would probably see an exact opposite expansion pattern. Which is also kind of cool. Huh. I like the look of this a lot. I have no idea what it would be like balance-wise. Always difficult to determine, right? That's the standard why. Like, we have a lot of maps that look pretty similar. That's the reason why we have a lot of maps that look relatively similar. We know that those types of maps generally are as close to a 50% balance as we can get in all the important matchups. Anyway, as far as strategies go, both players are playing very normal builds. So we've got ourselves a, well, a lot of macro hatcheries inside of the main. I don't generally see double macro hatch at this point in time, but that is going to be for full Zergling Baneling production. We don't have a Hydra Den or anything like that. And maybe he's not planning on going Hydra Den. Maybe we're just going to stick around on Ling Bane. You know what? That may actually be the plan, because he's building a lot of hatcheries all in one go. He's now also going for the one right over there. So Zerglings and Banelings are cheap as far as minerals and gas go, but very expensive in larva. So this is a little bit odd here for Rogue. Seems to me that he just wants to go Ling Bane, and then more Ling Bane, and then more Ling Bane. Usually this tends to lead towards Ultras, but in the current meta, I don't think Ultras are particularly great. But then again, it's Rogue. He's capable of doing whatever. Now that I'm saying that, though, it's likely going to be more of like a Nidus Worm or Overlord drop type of setup with more Ling Bane. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what goes on here. For now, ByuN is just following this up as well with more of his standard. So this has been a triple CC 1-1-1 here from ByuN. This is Barracks 6, 7, and 8 right now. A couple misreadied SCVs here on the low ground, but he'll probably fix that in just a moment. 1-1, though, is finishing up here for the South Korean Terran player. He's already got an armory, so he will be able to go straight into the 2-2. First big attack coming up, and that hatchery is certainly not going to happen. Rogue is, by the way, making hatcheries like he's never gonna... Like, he's gonna run out. It's weird. Like, maybe he needs, like, 100 workers in order to properly saturate this, but... Oh my god, he's coming in from every single angle, ready to collapse on top of this. Those Hellions are not gonna live for much longer, and that was an easy-peasy cleanup right there for the Zerg. Just pure Ling Bane. And I don't think he's gonna transition. Okay, we have an Infestation Pit coming up, but I think that's just for the Hive. And then the Hive goes into 3-3 and Adrenal Glands. Maybe Ultras, maybe Vipers. But for now, it's just drones, Zerglings, and Banelings. This is one of those 1,000 Zergling strategies. Not really something we see very often anymore in this day and age, but... I mean, these are the best units that Zerg has. I would say that Zerglings are the very best Zerg unit in the game. Together with the Queen. I think the Queen is very good too. I would rate the Zergling a little higher. Another easy surround right here, though, by the South Korean Zerg. Gets the Banshee as well on its way out, and... Yeah, ByuN has finally started up 2-2. 2-2, though, is quite far ahead here for Rogue. Now, keep in mind that for Rogue, you do need to be at Hive Tech in order to go 3-3. For Terran, that is not a necessity, because they don't have a Hive. They just need to have an armory, and obviously 2-2 done in order to be making that. So, I guess he can catch up in that department, because the Hive is a little out of sync here with those upgrades. But Rogue is just thinking about going full flood. Yeah, he is just opening the floodgates right now. He's got hatcheries for days. A ton of larva generation, and that's it. Just pure Ling Bane. That was very smoothly handled by Rogue. Slittering that drone down the ramp, taking the quick expansions, and just holding down the drone button. And then opening the floodgates with Zerglings and Banelings. Yeah, ultimately that second wave, right, that ByuN sent across, that one going down for practically free. That was way too much for him. He wasn't quite prepared to be dealing with that follow-up attack yet. And, well, he immediately paid the price. So now we find ourselves on El Dorado. I've always liked this map. I still kind of feel like this map is not entirely discovered yet. We've got that beautiful statue over here in the middle. Not a lot of Protoss is in this game right now, but at the very least we've got this... What is this even? Remember in StarCraft 1 that the Protoss units looked more like ducks? They always look like ducks to me. This is still a little duck-like, but less so. Anyway, this is one of those maps where players tend to be quite stubborn. So we generally see expansions taken either at the bottom or towards the top. And if you expand towards the bottom, you end up making the map extremely small. Usually, though, we see players sort of like just get really married to those expansions. They rarely will actually deviate from plan. I feel like there are a lot of opportunities where one player expands to the bottom, the other player expands north of the wall, and then we get long, drawn-out macro games. Maybe this will be one of them. By the way, it looks to me like apparently this statue here has been, it's been fed some... What is going on this map? Yo, do you think this is some sort of, like, Protoss god? And they've been making Vespian gas offerings? I don't know what's happening. Those gems look like they are worth a lot, dude. If this was real life, somebody would have stolen those a long time ago. Anyway, Reaper opener here for the Terran player. Nothing out of the ordinary. If we want to go for the low ground expansion, Rogue does need to start mining it pretty soon. But okay, he decided to go apparently now for the vertical expansion. Hide a drone up there. Make it difficult for the Terran really to... I mean, it could easily go up there, but he doesn't know where Zerg is likely to be taking these expansions. He's going to check. Golden mineral not mined out. Yeah, I like maps that have indirect map objectives. Like, this is kind of one of them. Talisman, the one we just were on. That also seems like a really promising map. I like that a lot. Where players are just forced to play more of a strategy game. I know this sounds insane. But if you have the same type of map every single time... I'm not saying it doesn't... It is not a strategy game anymore, but it's very much so all about execution. Now, this is funky. Huh. Really? Okay, so I guess we're going to mine out these mineral fields and then fly the command center over here? Yeah. Anyway, it does become more of a strategy game in my mind when you actually have to be playing to the map's strengths and weaknesses. That's an extremely risky position, though, by the way, on this orbital command. So, Rogue does not have vision of it right now with the Overlord. So he doesn't see that the command center is still building. But if this Overlord was a couple of squares further along on this, this stone... I guess it's a wall type of thing? I'm not exactly sure. Anyway. He could just make a whole lot of Zerglings and go kill it. Luckily here for ByuN, he has not been spotted, but that could have been a bit of a disaster. Hellions are being pumped out, though, and I believe at this point it's already too late. The command center has been built, and it means that ByuN is going to be able to get some additional minerals here. We'll probably see an orbital, have the SCV mine out these small mineral fields, and then the command center fly on, well, a little bit closer in range of those golden mineral fields. Once more, a Banshee coming up. And this is scary. When you have this much gold right at the very beginning of the game, you can line up really powerful attacks. This is a fake. ByuN trying to show his opponent that he's going for the cloaking field upgrade. So Rogue has seen the green light right over there, and he knows that that can really only be cloaking field. And upon the retreat of the Overlord, he cancels that research for the Raven. He picked the Raven upgrade because it's the cheapest one to produce. And this will force out some Spore Crawlers, or at the very least, some sort of detection. There's the lair coming up. No Roach Warren, by the way. No Bailing Nest at all yet either. So Rogue really... Yeah, Rogue once more just playing Ling Bane, it seems. Maybe in this instance he does want to go Hydras. But those golden minerals are going to be extremely valuable here for ByuN. I mean, it's only 2 SCVs mining at this point in time, but the income will certainly start being a whole lot nicer over the next couple minutes for the Terran player. ByuN though sacrificing quite a bit of his early game eco as well to get this to work, so it'll be a bit until this really pays off. Most of this using his Hellions and the Reaper here to keep the Zerg player contained on creep. Stimpec. Just about to finish up. Not really anything that that ByuN can make use of, but yeah, great sniping here of all of those creep tumors. That really slows down the Zerg player a ton. Now, Rogue doesn't seem to care. Yeah, Rogue is just happy to play the macro game every single time. So he's now taking the expansion in the far top right. Once more, a big group of Zerglings going around. Rogue still doesn't know, by the way, about this expansion, which is honestly a little bit sloppy. If you look at what Cyril does in a lot of his games, he's generally just, well, sending in wave after wave after wave of scouting links. Now he realizes that this expansion is indeed up and going. Nothing really to defend, though, here for ByuN. He does have a lot of Marines nearby, rallied them on top of that supply depot, so actually not really a lot of kills. A bunch of SCVs, 3 of them in total. Yeah, Rogue is very much so just playing his own game. Double Spore Crawler in the main mineral line? That's crazy. We never see double Spore Crawler like that. I mean, it worked. It got a benchy kill. So, we've had all these years of StarCraft 2. Zergs have, well, really mastered that very sophisticated transition towards lurkers, right? Basically, oh, that was awkward. Basically, the entirety of the Zerg's early game is to get to lurkers as quickly as they can against Terran Bio. That is effectively like 99% of all of the Zerg strategies out there right now. Rogue has decided he goes full Ooga Booga. We are just going Ling Bane. We're once more building an infestation pit, but I think it's just to be able to produce more powerful Ling Bane. Ah, there is a Hydra Den. Okay. Okay. It's not a very fast Hydra Den. It's not a very fast Hive. But it's like Rogue has thrown all of the rules out of the window and he's decided, you know what? Ooga Booga. That's what we need to do. Ooga Booga Zerglings. Well, let's see. Is this a good idea? I don't know, dude. Here we go, once more. Yeah, that's an awkward position. Way more Terran here this time around compared to the last game. And keep in mind that ByuN denied the creep spread in this area about 17 times, right? And that is what ultimately right now is allowing this attack for him. Fighting on the perimeter of the creep. Yeah, brilliant engagements here by ByuN. This is exactly what you want to see from a Terran player. Using the Hellions and the Reaper early on just to deny the creep. Building up that leverage with the golden minerals, and then, well, this is what he's been building up to the entire time, but it's a long game plan. Bailing Nest is looking quite vulnerable to me, although at this point, obviously, Terran doesn't have an easy way to reach it. Siege Tank, a new one, rolling forward. Hellions now also coming across the map. Turns out that Rogue is not committed to a run-by just yet, although he's thinking about it right now. He's going to collapse on top of all of this once more, but does he have enough to actually be able to deal with this mass amount of Terran? Absolutely not. GG. And that means it all comes down to Ley Lines. Final game in this best of 3 series. I'm a little surprised we see Rogue making these transitions. And I think it would have looked fine in the previous game, by the way, if he did get the creep going. If the creep would have been covering, I mean, maybe like his half of the map, maybe a third or so of the map, he would have been able to defend that attack just fine. Creep spread is such a difficult, like it's a difficult resource to really quantify, right? Like it's difficult to really look at the map and be like, oh yeah, this is amazing creep spread and this is not so amazing creep spread. Generally speaking, though, when you see a Terran player denying the tumors over and over and over again, well, it means that their follow-up attacks are super dangerous. And that wasn't, by any stretch, an all-in right there for ByuN. That was just, I guess we can call it, like, committed pressure. Yeah, committed pressure. That'll do the trick. Well, now we've seen Rogue going pure Ling Bane twice in a row. We saw a Hydra then, but I don't think ByuN has seen any Hydras. So all he has seen so far in all of these games, all 2 of them, is Zerglings and Banelings. A little bit funky. Although I guess you could make the argument that Rogue up to this point has seen 98% Marines and Medivacs, but that's besides the point. Do we change it right now on Ley Lines? This is a big map. A lot of expansions, and in general, it's quite easy to expand away from your opponent here. So usually that will benefit a fast-moving army, and again, Ling Bane would be excellent for that sort of playstyle. Seems to me, though, that in both games so far, both players have been wanting to play macro games. ByuN was quite committed, though, with those additional barracks in the previous one, or in the first game of the series. Anyway, both of them have been trying to play macro games, but then the opponent just sort of died. you go for your committed push, or you get the nice surround in the army, and you accidentally can win the game. I would like to see what happens when that doesn't happen, you know, when we actually see both of the strategies come into full effect. I'm especially curious to see what Rogue decides to go for. Maybe it's just going to be lurkers. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just going to be lurkers in the long run, but we'll have to keep an eye out on it. Now, this is a different build from ByuN, a very greedy build, because up until this point in the game, he's got no units, just SCVs, and, well, a mule. There's a unit that can literally not attack. Full add-ons here, and now Marines will begin. Any sort of pool first play would shut this down. You lose the SCV that's building the command center, maybe even the command center itself. Zerg would probably go into the main base, though, and go after the reactor. SCVs are pulled away from the mineral line. It's a disaster. So ByuN has already tossed up a coin, and he hoped that it wasn't going to be a spawning pool first. Well, lucky for him. Very unpopular build in the current meta, but if Terrans are starting to become very greedy again, and you can certainly bet here that Rogue is making note of this strategy. Next time around that they play against each other, maybe he will go for a pool first, just to keep the Terran player honest. But in this particular instance, ByuN has already been able to get away with it, and it's going to boost his income very rapidly. So the scary thing about this is that the attack, so this is likely just going to be a 16 Marine drop, or at least like a Stimpack Medevac drop. It is going to hit early. Normal time for the 16 Marine drop to hit it on the other side of the map is about 5 minutes and 10 seconds. That is like with really clean, crisp execution if you go for the more standard version of the build. So with a Reaper start, into a Marine, and then eventually additional add-ons. ByuN has gone for a very quick command center on the low ground, and then he skipped all of the other stuff. So he will start pumping out medevacs here at minute 4. That's quick. That is very early. So as soon as those medevacs are done, the Marines are going to start flying across the map, and it's very much so up to Rogue to be prepared against it. Generally, against the 16 Marine drop like this, you do need about 30 Zerglings. I don't actually think you want to show that many Marines. It's a bit silly, because now he's going to be able to prepare Zerglings. You do want to have about 30 Zerglings available against this sort of thing, but if you go for a build order where it's baked in, right, to make Zerglings at a certain time, you do have to adjust at this point in time to make them just a little bit earlier. Seems to me that Rogue is doing the right thing. Builds them around 4.5 minutes. He's already got queens waiting. Yep, so 16 Marine drop. We have a boost. No, that one apparently a little out of sync. But look at this. So just from optimizing the early game here, he can hit on the other side of the map pre-5 minutes. Just shaves off a significant amount of time. Now, I don't like the I don't like the medevac flight path here, because now he's spending a lot of time delaying his own attack, and then ultimately he hits at 507 or so. That was honestly the main bottleneck in this entire early game. ByuN just not going straight across the map. He was never really planning on dealing a lot of damage with this, but if you are a ladder hero and you can hit at this exact time as ByuN did, you will probably win the majority of the games. Up until probably about Master League or so, just because I think below Master League, you'll probably see a lot of players hitting this attack at like 5:30, maybe even later than that. And it's nice because you can just practice these sort of builds over and over and over again. Anyway, ByuN just following up this now with even more macro, but note here that he doesn't have a third command center. So he is very committed to whatever aggression this is going to be. Rogue has decided to go for a single evolution chamber. Armor upgrade is going to be done in about maybe 45 seconds or so from now. Bailing Nest is also going to be finished up, but no bailing speed. And that means that this attack will not just need to be held with queens and Zerglings. And it's an awful lot of Marines. It's also a lot of queens though, and even slow bailings are still scary. Keep in mind that these Marines do not have combat shields yet. It's finishing, the same for +1. But the longer you wait, the more Zerglings there are going to be as well, and the closer that +1 ground carapace comes. So let's see. Queens here to tank some of the shots, and suddenly Zerglings are wrapping around the back as well. Excellent movement here by the South Korean Zerg player. Crispy. Nicely done. Hiding a lot of those Zerglings off to the side. Just showing them when he wanted to commit. It's very difficult for Terran to know how many units there actually are out there. Rogue was hoping that his opponent would bite and step onto creep. If that would have happened, his army would have been decimated. ByuN not taking the bait. But that was still not quite what he was hoping for. And he needs to do something with this early game, because he still does not have a third base. It's not like Rogue has economy for 3 bases. He's only on 48 drones. But as soon as this aggression is over, Rogue is gonna hit the worker count. Well, now Baneling speed is done, so he's gonna try. I love the siege tank positioning over here, though, for ByuN. That is an absolute Zerg meat grinder. Great target firing with all of these Terran units as well to eliminate the Banelings. Rogue decides to retreat. And this is now turning into just an extended 2-base all-in. In about 2 minutes from now, ByuN's bases are gonna start running low. It's a weird problem to run into. But this is certainly on a timer for Terran. Rogue can transfer drones here if he really needs to. Although the siege tanks. This here, 31 kills. Yeah, the siege tanks here behind these mineral lines are insane, dude. Such a powerful position. And keep in mind, Rogue doesn't need to jump this. Rogue is trying to protect this base. I think this base is irrelevant for him. He doesn't really need to be this committed to clearing out this position of the map. Yeah, just give this location up. I fully agree. Take that base here up north instead. No reason to be engaging against these tanks behind mineral lines. ByuN, we really do need a base, though. Oh, jeez. Okay, we're just gonna do a full-on Baneling bust? Yeah, this is turning into a full Wings of Liberty game right now. Both players going full Ooga Booga. I wonder if you could have committed a little bit more there, to be honest, with the Zerglings, but he didn't want to give them away. He doesn't know if there's more units waiting behind the main supply depot. Where's the General Siege Tank? Oh, General Siege Tank is going in deep? Nah. Oh. You forgot to put the Vaseline on the tank, dude. It didn't... Anyways. He was trying to put it over there. But apparently it does not fit. Well. It was a little awkward. Anyways. +1 coming up for those siege tanks as well, though. I find that a little ambitious. Still, no third command center. Here's the Zerg, once more. He's decided to collapse on top of these Terran units. Keep in mind that Rogue has been making non-stop army ever since Terran first went across the map at, well, pre-5 minutes. Maybe he snuck a few drones in there, but he has been making an awful lot of stuff, and he saw an opportunity and he grabbed it with both hands. This is because ByuN was obviously split up. He needed to send reinforcements across. Rogue with that defender's advantage, but also with the speed advantage. He knew that not the entirety of the Terran army there was present. Now he did, by the way, make a good round of drones. 64 workers for Zerg versus 45 SCVs. This is starting to look quite dire, actually, for ByuN. Dire in the sense that he smashed his piggy bank and could just barely afford +2. Still no third command center. He's gonna run out of juice. I think it's time to shift gears, ByuN. I think it was time for that about a minute or two ago. ByuN was like, no, I have men with gun. Men with gun good. Did you know I am also men with gun? I mean, I'm assuming so anyways. He did his military service. Keep fighting. Yeah, this is, ByuN has this tendency sometimes where he just, like, sticks to a strategy for a little bit too long. He does this all the time, especially with Marines and Medevacs. He loves this sort of army composition. And maybe he's right. He does have an awful lot of stuff. I'm just a little afraid that he's gonna dry up soon. Like, the worker count is in favor of Rogue, but look, the minerals in the main base are running low. The minerals on the low ground even are starting to run out as well. This is still an awful lot of Terran, though, and these siege tank positions are absolutely killer. Fight over here at the front. We're looking for the reincarnation of that siege tank that died. Oh, it's this guy over here. 30 kills already. Okay, Medevacs just barely available in time. We have a bunch of Marines here pretending to be Hellbats. At least Hellbats are generally used like that to protect the siege tanks. And Rogue actually needs to leave this place alone again. Yeah, you're not gonna finish up the. I like the burrow actually, but you're not gonna be able to finish it here. Well, he snatches a couple of banelings here too. Ooh, ByuN. Ooh, okay, he was busy looking in the middle of the map because there was an engagement happening over here too. What a game here so far for ByuN. I almost wonder if this is one of those dangerous situations though for ByuN. Because this is the type of game that he lives for, and if he wins this one, he may accidentally convince himself that this is actually the right way to play. You know what I mean? He's kind of lying to himself, and he's gonna believe that I can kill lurkers with Marines and Marauders. I don't need ghosts. We may end up with a similar scenario. He's like, well, I don't actually need a third base. Third bases are overrated. The tunnel visioning here from ByuN is actually working out reasonably well. He's flown the main command center over, by the way. We are still on just 2 command centers, 13 minutes into the game. Normally, the third base is pretty much done by like minute 4. With a standard opener, Terrans finish up third command centers. That's like their first order of business. Get a Reaper going and start a third command center. That's what we do. This is actually so sick, though. This was what Terrans used to do way back in the day before they realized you could split Marines against Banelings. For some reason, this took a long time in StarCraft 2's history before any Terran player really figured out, you know what? I can do more than just kite units. I can actually split! And suddenly, Banelings seemed like a terrible unit to build. Yeah, so look, Rogue is preparing for a Baneling roll-by. There's not that many SCVs, though, because ByuN never really made that many, but this could be... Oh, this could be really good for Zerg. That was not cheap. Oh, gets a couple more SCVs on the transfer. But ByuN has not made a worker in, like, 8 minutes. Yeah, he restarts worker production again now. Mules are still going to be useful. +2 armor is going to finish up as well. ByuN has got 1 million gas in the bank, by the way. Like, he's saving gas for his children, his grandchildren, anybody that comes after him. I don't think we need that much gas. Turns out when you're making only Marines, they cost 50 minerals each. You don't really need a lot of gas. Because of the gas, I think he probably did never intend on playing this style, but he got a bit tunnel visioned. Okay, well, Rogue has also not been adding on additional drones after that first bit of aggression. Instead, he's been trying to get ahead in that department just by killing his opponent's economy instead. A couple of Banelings blowing up. I wouldn't want to be those Marines. Jump out of the ship! Jump out of the ship, Private, onto those glowy green balls! Poor Marines. No, at least they listened. In the rear with the gear. Turns out the gear was a Baneling. Little messed up. Another big Ling Bane run by right now, but he's just trying to become costly though. Rogue doesn't have a lot of cash. Well, soon ByuN also won't have a lot of cash anymore. $26 SCVs. Dude, this game... this game is now longer than the previous games combined. But we have about half the economy for both players. This is actually insane. ByuN is not very rich, but he's getting very cost-efficient trades. Oh, careful. No! Woo. No opportunity really for either player to transition towards anything else anymore. That ship has sailed. I think this game is going to end with Ling Bane against Marine Medevac. It's a lot of Medevacs, by the way, and those Medevacs are... Oh, those Medevacs, and obviously really good micro, but those Medevacs are ultimately what is allowing ByuN this extreme cost efficiency. And that is actually too much. Like, that's just too much money here that Rogue is not gaining out of his units. I mean... ultimately, the bottleneck here is the Terran's micro, right? Like, if you don't micro it perfectly as Terran, this doesn't look nearly as good for you. I love the Widow Mine here in addition, too. It's just a bit of frustration. But for Zerg, you don't have as much control over those units. Good pickup here as well. Oh my god, big Ling Bane run by now on the other side of the map. 13, oh my god, 14 SCVs go down. And at this point, ByuN has 9 workers. That is 3 less than he started the game off with. All Rogue needs to do now is hang on. That's not easily done, though. Oh, he taps out. Yeah, he just lost a base over here. He's losing the expansion in the top left once again. What an absolute nail-biter of a match to end on. It's actually ByuN with a 17-minute long 2-base all-in who obtains the victory.